Hard hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
And I'm going to say it right here.
Boy. Here we go.
Right out of the gate, Jimmy Toscano called this one. He called it. Said it on last night's show. This had to be a hard hat. Yeah, I know, Jimmy.
I can't wear this.
Can't wear it.
Can't sell them if I can't wear them.
Had to be a hard hat. Hard hat game. It's a hard hat show. I'll tell you that because we're bringing it 5 full right here. And this Noah's coming too. Sharad's here. Sharad's here beaming over his Pistons. We'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, he's excited. He's under. Sharad, look up and over. There he is.
Yeah, here he is.
See you. We see you, buddy.
What do they want to do, John? They want to click around.
Yeah, we're seeing why early on. Pistons will not let you click around on your computer all day. This is actual work. Spoken like a man, Jimmy, who likes to click around and not do actual work.
I've clicked around in my day.
We all click around.
I'll hop on a Zoom call. I'll mute it. I'll say, what's up, everybody?
And then you're ghost.
I'll circle back to a meeting, and then I'll circle back again. But if you're the Celtics, you can't do that tonight. You can't have a click around night against this Pistons team. They want to work. That's a Pistons team that's eager. Sherrod, you know the Pistons, they're like first day on the job type shit coming from Detroit. They are skipping to work. They are, you know what, they're like outperforming like the guy that's been there for a minute. You know what I mean?
They have figured out how to bring that, like, forget about 10-day contract. They play like guys on the 9th day of a 10-day contract. All their guys do. They treat these games as if it's, I wouldn't say life or death, but it's like a playoff atmosphere. I mean, the way they were defending, I mean, the Thompson kid picking Jason Tatum's pockets.
Oh my God.
Repeatedly. I mean, he I don't recall too many guys in the league who could make Jason Tatum look as average as he made Jason Tatum.
That was like 2022 Wiggins sort of stuff right there.
Yeah.
You know, like he was, oh my God. I swear if they played a game of one-on-one, it would finish scoreless, I think. It's like he is so good, man. I tweeted it earlier. That was my, like, I've seen them. You know, you don't see a lot of the Pistons, right? I mean, you just don't. You know, but we've seen his brother, and you know, you've seen him in moments and this and that. But holy crap, are these guys athletes of another level? And again, in a league filled with the best athletes in the world, these guys stand out. I mean, these guys are legit.
Mama did well.
Yeah. I mean, and Tatum still had a very efficient, effective game. And this looked like one of those games where Tatum's like, so no one's going to help me, huh? You know, like even though Thompson was legit, you know, forced Tatum to turn it over. That little spurt there in the first quarter that turned it. Celtics were 20-18. Then they went on that run at the end of that quarter. That was like turnover, basket, turnover, basket, turnover, basket. That kind of flipped the game. Pistons kind of kept them there for the majority of it. It felt like after that. But I mean, I've said all season long, I'm so tired of it's their Super Bowl excuse and this and that.
Best shot.
Like everyone gets up for it and the best shot. That being said, you watch tonight's game, and this was absolutely the Pistons Super Bowl, and they absolutely gave the Celtics everything they had. In addition to the Celtics playing back-to-backs and 3 and 4 nights, there's an explanation for it, but you still watch it, and you're like, holy crap. This goes back to that, Bobby, we've talked about a ton. That athletic, physical team is always going to be the one that messes with the Celtics, and it's going to throw them off their game. And as Jimmy very astutely put it in his tweet, this is not one of those let's show up and see if our threes fall game, because they're going to make you work for it. When the Celtics aided in that, when the Celtics
14-26 start,
they made a ton, and that's the only reason it was competitive in that second quarter. That second quarter barrage was fool's gold. This was honestly a blowout the entire game if the Celtics don't hit all those threes. Then when the Pistons came out and you know put the hammer down in the third, I did not think the Celtics had the juice to be able to come back here. They looked beat. And Detroit was just playing with more juice, more energy, and that's that. Missoula did the right thing to empty the bench. I might have even done it a little bit sooner. This was an L the whole way. The Pistons were playing a lot better than they were, and they were more into it tonight.
They're amazing. They're great to watch. I was telling Jimmy last night, this is the team I've watched the most outside of the Celtics this year. It's just a phenomenal watch night in and night out, especially as they've really gotten going over the last 8 games here. Cade's on par with Tatum. He just has been this year, especially as he's really gotten going in the last month or two here. And the creation ability from him, even on a night where he's not making shots.
On par with Tatum, easy.
Who is?
Cade has been this year, yeah, especially through the last month or two here, to get them in this position. I mean, he should be getting some MVP consideration, and definitely.
Oh, stop, Bobby! Stop.
You guys got to.
I mean,
look
this
at his overall numbers are ridiculous. He's 26
this is the worst
points.
team. This is the worst team in the league a year ago.
6 rebounds. I mean, Cade is legitimately.
He's legit, but
he's a top 10. He might tickle top 10 in the MVP. He's real this year.
But
he's real, and they're real.
On par with Tate. He's having a great season, Bobby. I will absolutely co-sign on that every day. You know how I love Detroit. But he's got a few levels to go before I feel comfortable putting him even in the same stratosphere.
I put him a level above Tatum.
Shut up.
Oh, shut up.
I said Tatum, not Brown.
It's sleepy in the chat here. I'm trying to get things going.
No, it's the playmaking. It's the
where is
playmaking.
everybody tonight?
And he's right up there for the lead in assists period across the league this year. And again, not the best offense, not the best team around him. Now, the turnovers, the fouling at time for him, he's not the best defender yet either. Those are things I'm going to look for from that team for me to think that they can actually make a run here in the playoffs. But they're going to be in the playoffs. And I said it in December, I think right after a game they played against Boston, because they've always just been so competitive with the Celtics. I felt like this could have been a first-round matchup for the Celtics, and now they tied Milwaukee tonight in the standings for 5th. They're a half game back of the Pacers for 4th. They might be too good to play the Celtics in the first round here. So we were looking for Jimmy. How do they respond to the physicality? How they respond to the speed? I actually underrated that. How big of a dynamic that would be in this game, and we've seen it, John, as you mentioned, different spots this season. The faster teams, the more athletic teams, and in this case, a physical team bothered them greatly. They brought the worst out of Porzingis. They brought the worst out of Tatum early. You didn't have the Brown dynamic in this game, and Cato, who you love to throw him in there for that athletic element, but he was just so unprepared for the pick and roll that the Pistons threw at him that he just got thrown right out of this game.
Sure, he didn't get much of an opportunity, so it was tough to figure out exactly.
It happened like this
play.
though. It was Duran, boom, he's gone. It was
but at the end of the day, I mean, Cato was a -2, which was a team high in this. So, it was pretty. I mean, Porzingis is -24 in 26 minutes. We're gonna crap on
Porzingis is brutal.
We're gonna crap on Keita here. He was,
I
a
mentioned
lot of people
Porzingis.
in my timeline were on Keita. He was problem number 400 tonight.
I mentioned Porzingis too. I'm just listing off everybody here who, was pretty complicit in this one. And I gave Joe a lot of credit for the lineups, rotations, the adjustments. The last game, this wasn't as sharp. The double big wasn't working. It was a bad look. I actually thought it would be a decent matchup against a bigger Pistons team, but it looked slow. It looked uncompetitive at times. The rebounding started to hurt them later too. And you got the threes. You mentioned that, John. And it's rare to see that be there and them to get completely destroyed like they did here. And you know who's missing. You know what the dynamic was going into this game with the back-to-back. So it's not a freak-out kind of game, but you do jot down that note again, the kind of team that can bother them. And this is it.
It's the kind of team, but it's also the way that Detroit played them. Like Detroit, when we talk about
they were willing to foul, Sherrod.
Well, they were physical. I mean, Detroit was ridiculously physical, and the Celtics could never adjust or adapt to that physicality. Even though on paper, I think they're still the more talented team, but this was an example of why, and I've been saying this all season long, the Celtics are not going to win a championship unless they have their full arsenal available. It's not going to happen. because this is a team that when they're missing one or two dominoes, no matter how insignificant they may appear to be, what the analytics will tell you, they're going to have struggles getting past teams if they don't have their entire core ready to roll. And this was I don't necessarily know if they would have won this game if they would have had Jalen, but it damn sure would have been a lot closer than what we saw.
Physical, more athletic, whatever word you want to use. I hated the way the Celtics came out tonight in this game. I mean, Detroit was ready to go. 7 o'clock tip. Detroit was ready to go. They got the fans into it right away. They're running up and down the court.
You got Jalen Rose on the sideline,
Points off turnovers, drives to the hoop. I mean, the points in the paint differential tonight was embarrassing if you're the Celtics. And that was because Detroit was just taking it to them. They were physical.
Was that like 60-20?
It was pathetic. The turnovers were really bad by Tatum in the first quarter there. Again, helped get Detroit kind of going in motion, and they set the tone, and it was their game from start to finish in that sense. I know that Celtics made their little run there, but it just felt like Detroit was playing a more complete game on both ends of the court.
Yeah, and you don't like it's not losing, and it's not like overreacting to a single loss because again,
Pistons shot 31-47 in the paint, John.
Yeah, they killed him. It was a layup line. I mean, you saw Mazzulla every time out he called when he was just giving up easy baskets. But it's the two things you don't love off of these types of losses. And this isn't like a freak out. It's just you never like to see another team have their way, with you and make it look easier. And you really don't want to see players looking bad. And some of them looked really bad. Porzingis, Holiday, and that leaves a little bit of a mark there. And that's the only thing you don't love is, you don't want to look soft. You don't want a team that's playing tough and is physical to bully you, because then you just got kicked around, you run into a hot shooting team, or you run into a night where you're just not hitting them and you don't have the legs and you just run out of gas in the fourth quarter. That's fine. But the Pistons just kicked their ass all night. And again, if not for ridiculously hot shooting in the second quarter, that's a 20+ point game and over after the third quarter, with Pistons probably go up 30. So again, they were very fortunate to be as competitive as they were by just being unconscious. 11 for 16 from 3 in that second quarter is insane. And to be tied after that just showed you how much Detroit won almost everything in the margins, and also was just killing them on the boards, killing them in the paint, just everything they wanted to do outside of those threes falling in the second. Celtics got absolutely worked the whole game.
Yeah, and that stretch comes at the end of the second there, where Pritchard's in, and you got the the two guards there with White just passing out of the rotations well. There was a lot of pressure coming Tatum's way. There was a lot of aggressive defense thrown at him, and the rotations were so good for Detroit early that they were able to get out and recover those shooters. And that waned a little bit there in the second. I think Pritchard did some great stuff there to be able to dig into what they were doing defensively a little bit and open some stuff up, free some stuff up. I mean, that and one he had too, or the foul, I forget which it was, where he just got slammed in there. He was willing to play among the trees in there and get the ball out and even finish inside. So I thought you needed a little more Pritchard in this one. You probably needed to go smaller and spread it out and just play with more speed and versatility and stuff like that. And instead, they played bigger in this game, John. And I know that's the reason you don't always like it, is that you can look a little slow. You can look a little just stuck defensively at times, and they got run off the floor in transition and in the paint, as we talked about. The coverages just weren't there, speed wise and read wise. So you needed a better start in this game, because you knew the rotations, the Walshes were going to be in there, Kada, those kind of guys. Players with Tatum off the floor and no Brown weren't going to be able to dig your way back into a game. And the fact that you gave up the lead early with Tatum and all those guys on the floor, like you said, John, you were done.
Done. You play Tatum the whole third quarter, and you enter the fourth down 11. You knew they were cooked there. It was also a sixth man of the year off between Malik Beasley and Peyton Pritchard tonight. Beasley made his case.
Easily. Yeah. And I mean, Beasley, that's his game. That's his game. I mean, he's a shooter. He's a shot maker, but he's a streaky as hell shot maker. The only difference between what he's doing now and past years, he's just been a little bit more consistent with it this year.
He's last 2 years, 41%, 42% from three. He's scoring nearly 17 points a game this year. So again, the shots are falling. He's been, he's been killing it. So PP's got some heat. We'll see what Noah has to say about that when she jumps in.
Yeah, and he's awesome too. I mean, you see the dances and the too short and all that. And
too short on a taller
there.
player was a choice, but I did like that.
Yeah, no, he's got something for every shot he hits, it feels like. And
I respect it. I liked it a lot. Pistons are no joke though, man. Again, I think it's like 19-8. In 2025, they've been one of the better overall teams here. What is this?
I feel like
6 wins in a row, 7 wins in a row for them. They've been good, man.
I mean,
8.
I feel like, remember the 2021 Celtics, John, and it's Romeo and it's Neesmith and it's all these. Yeah, that's what they were trying to do last year with Cade. It was Killian Hayes and this guy and that guy that just weren't working. And they actually just went out and got real starting caliber players. Beasley's not anything crazy, but he's been getting opportunities there, playing off Cade and making the most of it. You get Hardaway, who's solid. Tobias Harris, actually a good pickup for them. They weren't getting guys who were 16 and 9 and a good 34 minutes like they got from him tonight. And then the All-Star stuff tonight is really exciting if you're them. And obviously, I think a lot of people got to see around the league the kind of promise he has. And it's crazy that he and his brother had breakout, maybe marquee games a month apart against the Celtics here. And I hope he's all right. The injury didn't look great there, but he set a tone early with those plays on Tatum and just super aggressive, strong, knocking the ball off. Tatum was trying to show him up in those spots a couple of times, and he wasn't having it. And, this one does fall on Tatum, whether fair or not, coming off the 40 minutes last night. He wasn't good enough early. Couldn't control the ball, couldn't run the offense, couldn't keep things in control. This was the 6th most turnovers the Celtics had in a game this year, tied for 5th, and it was that sloppy. The ball was just flying all over the place early and often.
Yeah, and again, it's a tough. It's me. I'm looking to blame Tatum for everything. Not really, but really in this one, I just don't know what you're going to do here. I think he still found his way to get his points. I do think Thompson was a tough matchup in that first quarter. Really,
but they needed ball control.
Really
Joe's
turn things. But
podium right now screaming about the turnovers because that's the one thing they can't do.
I think Joe's probably saying that he's really happy or something.
They needed it.
Yeah, I freaking love this loss. I love it. I'm curious what Joe is saying, but yeah, I mean, this is the type of team you really don't want Jalen to sit against because you're looking to match physicality and athleticism. Jalen's the only horse you have there who can do that with a team like this, and didn't have it there. You're missing Luke as well. Hauser again, man. The minutes are weird here. Like I look up and all of a sudden it's late in the third quarter. He's got 6 minutes again,
and he's back on the injury report again today.
I don't know what's going on there. And again, he's 3 points in 12 minutes. What are we doing here?
I mean, I wonder if that's injury related or pain related because he
played 30 last night.
Yeah, he played a good amount last night. Short turnaround, not a lot of time to kind of work out the kinks in the back after that. So he could still just be playing through pain out there, and it might be a situation where maybe he can't be doing back-to-backs if the back is a lingering thing.
Yeah,
this year.
He played 40 last night, guys. By the way,
he played 40.
Damn,
yeah,
he played that.
That was Tatum.
No,
Hauser played 40.
Yeah, I thought he was in there for 39, and they switched it to 40.
That's wild.
Wow,
that seems kind of unnecessary.
That'll explain it. I didn't realize he got up that high.
Yeah. Unless this, maybe not. I'm comparing box scores here in case. Yeah, 39-38. Yep.
But you're
like 40 minutes.
And with him not getting much burn, and Cornette sitting, Jaylen Brown sitting, again, Bobby. We said it yesterday. You're looking at the stay ready bench crew here, and there's nobody ready. There's just nobody.
Well, that is a problem.
That's a problem when your stay
There's
ready is not
nobody-
ready. Yeah.
Nobody is good. Like,
So I think Joe did a little bit of experimenting here,
what
right?
is going
I think
on?
he did a lot of
tried-
it, John. I think he did a lot of it.
I think last night he starts Craig, and they're playing no bigs here, and honestly, you
Craig?
didn't get much out of him at all. And then he sits him and he goes, Walsh, and I'm sorry. And again, I'm going to say this before Noah gets on because I don't want to make her feel bad and I don't want to argue.
Please do.
But like, I mean, you talk about a guy who just doesn't look ready for the minutes, like, and just doesn't look ready for what it takes to do it here. Like, sure, every once in a while there'll be a flash, but like, he's just not looking to do stuff. He looks lost and just kind of running around out there. He's just
We
clearly
talked about
not.
it though, John. I hate the take 3 threes, and if you don't make any, you stink, and if you make 2, you're great. Like, get him involved in some other ways, and he does try to make himself involved, Sherrod.
He does, but Bobby, it's the little things that, for whatever reason, there's a disconnect between him and the right decision. Like, for example, if you get an offensive rebound and you've got
Maybe
Tatum,
look at the basket.
Yeah, look at the freaking basket. There was literally nothing, but it was like having
It was
a
the Tatum
Ben-
show when he went.
It
in
was
there
a Ben
first quarter.
Simmons moment before our very eyes when he had the ball and there was nothing between him but air and the rim. And he decides to kick it out, not even kick it out to Tatum, who was in front of him. He decides to swing it out to the wing. And then that dunk, there's no way he should have missed that dunk.
I liked it. I liked the try.
I love the effort, John, but you got to finish that.
I love like the
Good try, good effort.
Yeah, good try, good effort.
I just see
Good
him
hustle.
finding
Sherrod's
ways
guy.
to instill himself. You know, he had the put back to start last game, the block in short order. He comes in, and it's not much time, John, but you know he's trying.
I mean,
to do stuff.
I think you want it. I think you want him to succeed. I think he's just. It's a rough. It's a rough. Yeah.
Yeah, it
It's
has
a
been.
rough-
Go down the
Especially
line.
since
It's like
every single
but you
time
have a
he's
few
gotten in, he
playbooks.
has been able to hit shots.
To Jimmy's point on the stay ready side, you know, you put guys on. You're right, Bobby. You put guys on ice as long as you do. Like,
Well, that's
look,
my problem with Kada right now.
Kada was playing well, and then Kada got put completely on ice, partly because, you know, I think the trust isn't fully there with Joe, but also because Cornette was playing so well, and then Porzingis is healthy, and the minutes just went away. I mean, what do you expect from the guy? He looks like the Cornette he looks like the Kada you were afraid to play last year. You know, he didn't look like the guy who all of a sudden looks like he's got it, like he's
a little
figuring
out of
something
sorts
out,
again.
making an impact. Right, he's all over the place. He's like, he steps over there and then his head turns. He's like, crap, should I be over here? He's like spinning around like a top. So,
and they were all doing that tonight. It was
yeah.
a disaster defensively.
Exactly.
It didn't look that bad in a while.
We're going to keep talking about this. We're going to welcome Noah on in just a minute. Before we do, we're going to tell you about our sponsor here at the Garden Report. And of course, we're talking about Prize Picks. We love ourselves some Prize Picks. Ah! I didn't mean to do that. Where's my B-roll? Put it back.
Yeah, by the way, I didn't have B-roll for it last night, saying thanks a lot.
I am the worst. Anyway, there it is. B-roll, we call this in the business. You know what to do here. It's basketball season. You can get in on the action. There's a ton of other sports too. And for new users, you see it on the screen. All you have to do is play 5, get 50 instantly. You pick more or less on a couple of different couple of different stats on your favorite players, and that's it. Run your game. Play 5, get 50 instantly when you use the code CLNS. That's all you got to do. Big cash payouts, fast and secure. 24/7 support. It's all there. So again, download that Prize Picks app. Use that code CLNS. Play 5, get 50 instantly. Prize Picks, run your game. Let's bring in Noah. This looks gappy. What are we doing here? There we go. We tightened that up. Noah is here, and Noah will. We've been around the world once or twice already on this.
Noah, you missed Blame Pie.
You did. Your main
Did I really?
takeaways.
No, you didn't. Sorry.
No.
I was gonna say I was listening, so
Yeah.
I heard you guys worried about me reacting to Jordan Wall. So I heard it all.
Oh.
I'm not worried as
we
much
say
as I don't
that?
want to have. As much as I don't want to have the conversation.
We don't need to have
You were
actually don't- I
listening
don't wanna-
behind our back?
it. Yeah, it's a public show. You know that.
Jeez.
Give me a break. I mean,
She's our number one fan.
It's a public show. I guess we can't
This
force
is-
you to not watch it.
I do like that. Yeah.
Well, normally I can't watch because we're at the press conferences. Sometimes my dad will text me being like, "They're roasting you." But this time I actually was able to listen. So.
Dad the
John's at it
informant.
again.
Dad the informant.
They're
Love it.
roasting you.
Love it.
Love it. Love it.
Daddy Dalzell doesn't get in the chat here ever.
I don't even think he knows about the chat.
He's Luke Cornett.
No? Oh my god!
If
he said something, I would cower. I'd be so. I would completely fold. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Dads do that. 100%. Dads keep it real. So anyway, your main takeaways here.
I mean, it was a bad game. They looked. I think the last few minutes of that first quarter kind of set the tone in the sense that they just looked rattled. They let the Pistons defense kind of make them uncomfortable. A couple of bad turnovers there. That was as bad of a 2-minute stretch as I can remember for a long time. Those last 2 minutes of the first quarter. And then second quarter, obviously they got kind of bailed themselves out a little bit with that hot shooting, but they didn't play well tonight throughout the game. I felt like offensively they didn't really know what they were looking for. A lot of bad shots, a lot of tough shots. And then the end of bench guys, like they got an opportunity tonight. Tonight's the kind of night where one of those guys could separate themselves and nobody did. And I think it's not shocking. It's not overly concerning because those aren't guys that are going to play in the playoffs. But yeah, they definitely did not capitalize on what could have been a breakthrough moment for any one of those guys, whether it's Nimi or Jordan or Baylor, or whoever else.
Nimi.
Yeah.
I love it. We're just going to sell out and call him Nimi, huh? Like on the broadcast, everybody does it. That's just
I feel like his name is pronounced differently every single day.
I know. But it's like everyone just does it. Like the sideline reporter, it's like, well, Nimi. I talked to Nimi. I'm like, that's what we do. We just call him Nimi, huh? All right.
Yeah.
I guess I'm okay with it.
D White.
Yeah, D White.
Someone be saying Joey.
I don't think we're gonna say that.
So I mean, Noah, do you take anything out of it that like leaves a lasting impression, or is it a toss it in the trash? 3 out of 4, bad game. 3 out of 4 nights, back-to-backs on the road, big games coming up ahead, trap game, blah, blah, blah. And there's so many reasons why you could look past this, or this would be an L. And a lot of us actually thought an L was very possible in this game. So it's not shocking, but like, does anything about it stick with you?
I mean, honestly, I felt like the two guys that were missing tonight, even though this team was mostly healthy and a lot of the guys that were on the injury report were available, felt like I really noticed their absence quite a bit in Jaylen Brown and Luke Cornett. Both of those guys, I feel like, can just battle a little bit, can be a little bit more physical, and the team looked a little bit soft. Like just they weren't able to respond to Detroit's physicality, and so some of that's like the second night of a back-to-back. Some of that's probably just Detroit got super hyped up and the crowd was behind them and everything. But I do feel like that was one takeaway. I think this team, like Luke missing 2 games, like actually does stand out as like a rotational thing. Whereas a few months ago, I wouldn't have even thought twice about that. And then I think the only other thing is just the Thompson twins seem to have like
another deer of athleticism.
This team, yeah, both of them have done it now in a month span, and Tatum in particular. But like there is something to that. So as they flourish in the league, we talk all the time about all the wing stoppers, the Mikal Bridges, the OG Anunobis, who don't really have a great track record of actually stopping guys like Tatum.
These guys are terrifying.
I think these guys might be on the come up, and maybe in a few years it's going to actually matter when they're in contending teams. Yeah. So, yeah,
that's the thing. Is like,
but you can't be overly concerned after they've been playing pretty consistently for about a month now.
I'm not.
Concern isn't the word, but we have to take note.
What's the word?
The word is my antennas
Disgusting.
are up.
The word is this.
Your antennas up.
What's the point of doing a show if all we do is come out here and be like, the Celtics are good and they should be fine? Like, you either talk about it or you don't.
It's what we said.
Yeah.
This kind of team can bother them.
This type of team.
It's like,
yeah.
They can do more than bother. They can send your ass home if you're not careful.
Would have been way more. Wait, did I lose you guys?
No.
No, we're just listening to you talk, Jimmy. We're
no, my screen flashed before my eyes.
Before your eyes. Okay.
Came into this game thinking that this was a game the Celtics could lose because this is the type of team they could lose to, and then they lost to that team. So whatever word you want to use for that, fine, use it. It's not panic. I don't think the Celtics are, the trajectory of the team is greatly changed here, but there's some patterns because we kind of thought that this could be a tough game, and not because Detroit's won a bunch of games, but this style of team, this athletic young team
Messes with them.
Exactly. It messes with them. They don't have answers for some of these guys. And yeah, Jaylen Brown would have been a great answer. He wasn't available tonight. Have to assume he will be in the playoffs, or if these teams match up at some point in the playoffs. But you don't have those Thompsons on this Celtics roster. You've got some very accomplished veterans and older guys on this team, but take a look at Noah. I know you love watching the Stay Ready crew in the second unit. Take a look at that bench, or that
Not
that unit there.
tonight.
Not tonight, certainly not really last night, not a bunch of other nights. There's not a lot of
Come
young
on,
help
Jay.
on this team.
Give me a break with it. How much are we going to keep blaming Jordan Walsh and Kata for
I'm
this?
not blaming
Like,
them,
the
but
stars
there's
All
no-
of it, all the
too.
blame.
You blamed Kata to start the show, first of all, Bobby.
I said
didn't.
Porzingis. I said
No,
Tatum.
no,
Oh, what-
you
yeah,
did
what
not.
happened
I
to
said
Porzingis tonight?
Porzingis.
I said Porzingis, and you didn't listen.
You said
John.
Kata.
Porzingis,
Kata.
Tatum.
Went off on Kata.
That's what I said.
Regardless.
What was your question, Noah?
Porzingis okay? He didn't look right. I don't know if it was
Hopefully
the
he's still
illness
sick.
or, but
He was way
at one
off.
point I was like, why is Tobias Harris guarding Porzingis better than I've seen anybody guard him in the last 6 weeks? Like, it's not.
Yeah, he
Bobby,
looked
the point is they
It
don't
is
have
not
anybody.
Tobias.
He looks slow.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
makes Tobias look athletic, which he's not.
Yeah.
And again, they
are-
couldn't really get into some of their longer passing sequences in this
Very
game
true. I like that.
because the Pistons were rotating so well. And you know, when you have a coach like Bickerstaff, when you have a guy who's going to really scheme it up and junk it up defensively and throw some crazy stuff at you, that's going to mess with you. And if you're just walking into the game expecting to be able to run some stuff and do some stuff you normally do with guys out, it's going to look sloppy. And I know Joe always talks about it, but when you're not running your offense, it's going to kill your defense. And that's what happened here. Like, they had no chance of stopping the transition game. They had no chance of being able to consistently string together stops because they were shooting 35%. They were shooting like 33 from three early. And again, it's that early stretch. I'm not blaming the Walshes and Katas of the world. It was Tatum turning it over 4 times. He was out there at the end of the quarter turning it over 2, even though he shot well early. Porzingis really didn't show up physically in this game. And, playing big on Joe's part was probably a mistake here.
And again, it's a classic game. Noah mentioned earlier about like not great shots, not really a clue what they were doing on offense, not working for buckets. You go 11 for 26 from 3 in the second quarter, and you finish the game 15 for 51. That's bad. That's bad. 4 for 25 the rest of the game outside of that. Outside of that, 11 for 16 rather. Absolutely brutal the rest of the way. Brutal. 4 out of their remaining 35 threes outside of the second quarter is what they made. That's insanely bad. So,
Oh.
Insanely bad. John definitely lost power connection there. It seems
Gary
like always happens.
sharing out of Detroit. Porzingis was hard on himself after the loss. I was terrible tonight, is the quote.
We
He
know
said
that.
it. He said it.
I'm glad he said that because we weren't really quite sure how to characterize his play in this.
And we've
that a
talked about it.
Porzingis
Yeah,
issue?
we've talked about they need him this year, Noah. Like when he's
I love
not
a
there, when
Porzingis
he's
post-loss interview.
yeah, he's honest too. But they need his play, and when he's either not out there or not present, even though he's in the game, you notice it a lot more this year.
Well, if we're really being honest about this whole situation, them winning a championship with getting as little as they got out of him last year was fool's gold. You can't possibly run that back and expect the same result. They absolutely need him. And we see what happens when, again, 1 or 2 dominoes is either missing or not quite in the position that it's usually in. He was horrible in this game. And to Porzingis' credit, he was due to have a game like this when you look at the long stretch of games where he was damn near flawless. So he's due to have another couple games like this before we get to the playoffs, just for the law of averages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a bad matchup for him. Maybe the illness played a role there, but when you're going up against Stewart and Dern and those guys who are just going to batter you, that's not his game. Like when he can batter smaller guys, that's great for him. But if he's going up against the Giants who are more physically imposing and can kind of push him off his stop, I've always said this about him. he's great positionally, and he's, when they got him, I was like, he's going to change this defense with how great positionally he is. But if you put a body into him and knock him off his spot like these guys do, that's where he struggles. And he fouled a ton in this game. What do you have, 5 in like 2.5 quarters?
Yeah,
it's pretty bad.
But we're definitely doing the selective memory thing again, which is frustrating, both with Porzingis and with Holiday. Like, we were okay with Holiday. Remember, he came back and he looked good and everything was all right. And then he had a bad game, and already the chat's filled with the same stuff of like, what a bust. He's killing us. He's going to kill us in the playoffs. Like, we can't do this all the time, right? Like, it wasn't a great game from these guys, but like, they've been like, Porzingis has been good. I'm stunned at the level of Porzingis hate we have here in the chat.
Is there really?
Yeah.
There's a bit of
that was like his first bad game in a long time.
That's what I don't get. I'm definitely a little confused on it.
The chat's angry about this game than I think any of us are.
They are.
Hey,
they are.
I respect it. It's okay to be angry.
Yeah.
Are you angry,
okay.
Jimmy?
Jimmy just wanted to wear his hard hat, and he's disappointed.
I know. I can't. I'm not angry because, again, I think this was something that I unfortunately expected might happen. So it's not that I'm angry. It's just that it's disappointing, I think, more than anything, which is like worse. When your parents are disappointed in you, that's even worse than when they're angry at you, So that's kind of how I feel about it. Again, this isn't like end of the world situation, but these are the teams that, when the playoffs come around, these are the types of teams that you're going to see.
What do we keep saying? Forget the Pistons. Forget this game. The Thunder in June.
Yeah.
Like the highest level of this kind of opponent, the team that could actually be there at the end and that could actually beat you in a series. Because I don't think we think Detroit can, even though I love them. Oklahoma City could do this stuff and beat you. Maybe Denver could do this stuff and beat you. Those kind of teams. Cleveland in some way, although I don't think they're really this kind of team.
No, they're different.
Cleveland
Cleveland goes really deep though. That's their superpower against the Celtics here.
Yeah.
But they're not as physical and athletic as this team, and not the same as OKC. So it's a different
there aren't many
different
teams
type of
like
team
this,
for sure.
But you notice when they go up against them. I'm trying to think of another.
But again, they go out and they go out and they beat the Cavs and the Nuggets, and nobody's thinking about anything related to this. A couple quick shout outs I want to say here as we chug along on the Garden Report. I want to give a shout out to Gio, who works over at my twins' after school rec place, the best after school, honestly, it possibly in the world. America, maybe, certainly around here. It's unreal how good these people are. Shannon as well, who didn't know I did this show and might be watching. If you are watching, Shannon, hello. And also Kim. But anybody from Rec Place right now, shout out to the folks at Rec Place. They do an amazing job there. And Gio says he's been watching since the Heat loss a couple of years ago. So Gio's on board. He's on board. So we like that.
John, I can't believe you meet a new person in between every show in person that watches this show. It's starting to sound scripted.
No, it's funny is I don't get the same thing. Bobby and those guys get it all the time. In my world, people,
John tries to keep
cohorts,
it secret.
I keep it a secret, but two, people like my age, they're watching they're like talking on ham radios and watching like TVs with
they're cranking the
rabbit
radio.
antennas. Yeah, they're looking for the UHF dial. So they don't watch this kind. They don't watch. They don't have
YouTube. Let's put it that.
So when I run it, when I'm around the kids a little bit, then so every once in a while I'm surprised by it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, of course. I don't have a television. I watch YouTube. I watch the show." So that's great. But these guys are amazing over there. I swear to God, they know my kids better than the teachers at their school. They're so friggin' dialed in. So it's awesome. So shout out Rec Place.
Shout out Gio.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hopefully he agrees.
Better when I did it from the kitchen. Yeah, the kitchen was okay. I got better reception over here. So we could move on to the Cavs, but I want to say, is there anything left on this game that we wanted to discuss before we do move forward?
Who else can the Pistons beat, Bobby? You've been watching them all year. Are they legit? I mean,
So,
could
I've
they
been
second round team here or what?
I've been saying it the last week or so here. They're pretty firmly lined up against New York. I don't know. We'll see what Indy and Milwaukee do
That would
because
be a
they're right there
battle.
with those teams now. The Knicks are so thin and so vulnerable defensively, as we've seen here, that like if the right circumstances align there, you could see it. And then who's to say the Pistons don't, come back to earth a little bit and drop down to 7 or 8 there and be in the play-in. So I've had my eye on this matchup for a while now. It just based on how the standings have gone, they've firmly put themselves in the playoff picture here. It's hard to me imagining them not making the playoffs in some capacity, but that first run is always tough, right? For everybody, you go there, you see what it's like, you get overwhelmed a little bit by maybe a better team. But if they're 7, you'll probably see them first round. If they're 6, I could see them giving New York a run.
That's a tough first round. That's just the type of matchup that would just kind of. I feel like
I love this team. I really do. They're my favorite team to watch.
I'll say this: if if everybody stays healthy, this is going to be a much more difficult run for whatever.
Right
team
now,
comes out
you're
of the
talking
East.
about like Orlando round 1, New York or Detroit round 2, and Cleveland round 3 or something like that. Just the way it looks right now.
3 hard teams for them. Orlando's given them fits over the years. Detroit, we already know what they can do.
And if Cleveland loses,
they've had no issues with the Knicks, so I guess that's not a problem. But
if Cleveland loses, it's Pacers, Bucks. So it's a lot of teams out there in the East. It's a much better East. It looks like right now, at least 1 to 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 1 to 6. The play-in tournament is not going to be a pretty one this year in the East.
Oh yeah. Also, shout out Michael, Boston Garden Dispensary. I just want to say that as well.
Hell yeah.
Oh.
Ran into another guy. Just one more.
Boston
Michael.
Garden Dispensary?
Yes, it's a real thing.
This is making me think that when I run into people, I need to keep track of their names so I can give them shout outs.
I do it
because
to me it only happens it's only happened like 5 times in my life, so I'm like, oh cool, I'll mention you. But you guys,
I like it.
You're actual celebrities here, who people recognize you all the time. Because you guys are on the scene. You're out there. You're at the games. So you're out. You're in the mix. But yeah,
Bobby, has anyone ever asked you to say phenomenal? Like, hey, say phenomenal.
Do the phrase.
Yes. Can you just say it? Hold on, let me get on my recorder. Can you just say it?
Probably. Back when it was big a couple years ago.
Record my voice, my voicemail message.
Yeah,
we were
like
pushing
cameos
for a while. Yeah. Hats. Yeah, it was big time.
Oh, Bobby's gonna start doing cameos, isn't he? Oh God.
Yeah, I don't
created
think
a monster.
He is.
Oh my God. You should. $5. Why not? See what happens.
All right. So I don't.
Give me a coffee.
Have the Tatum? Because it's one game and there's no reason to overreact to it, and we're out of stuff to talk about. Did you guys have the Tatum convo the other day?
No.
Yes.
You did?
We had the one.
Which convo?
We had the one we wanted to have, not the one you wanted to have.
Which one?
We said he's amazing. I don't know what
about
you
his
want
quotes.
to say.
No, we did not
talk
about
the
quote.
Bobby.
Yeah, no, we talked about the Washington Post piece.
We didn't really though.
Okay, so I did want to ask you about it.
We didn't.
The Tatum, the dozen interview, face of the NBA sort of stuff, and basically talked about this whole underappreciated thing, which we're back to with this. The asked a question just kind of like face of the NBA and how people perceive him, and he said something along the lines, if you just look at my stats and you called me player A, people would view it differently, but because it's me, less so. And he's talking about being judged here. Did he win a championship? Yes. Gold medal? Yes. Always part of winning seasons. First team All NBA. Those are things that are hard evidence. Face of the NBA, they can always debate, but it's like I check off all the boxes. And look, it's not he also said this just for proper context while saying I don't really want to insert myself into the face of the NBA debate. So he's not out there lobbying outright I have to be the face of the NBA. But this kind of comes back up here and it makes the talk show circuits again about, the conversation is here. Is Jason Tatum underappreciated? again, is he a face of the NBA candidate? Is the hate, has it gone too far? What's the point of it? I almost wanted to do a hate pie of like, what is the
I'm down.
reason why Jason Tatum is so underappreciated? Because, I've always said, as soon as you have to as soon as you present your resume or have to explain why you're good, you've already kind of lost the argument. It's better when people just think it on their own. So it never turns out well when this stuff is out there. But like, why does it keep coming up? And why do you think he is? Again, it's hard to say how much hate. You're a Boston fan. People are going to hate at you. So you're going to hear it a lot. Covering the Celtics. So I don't know if it's different than other stars in other places, and if he's any more hated than others, than other superstar players that might have a wart or two. But is it real? And is it bad? Is that like, how bad is it? Like, how underappreciated is he, and how disrespected is he?
I think relative to the accomplishments, pretty underappreciated, disrespected, whatever you want to say at this point, because it's like you're it's like you're looking
good.
Yeah.
It's like you're looking for stuff, because even after the championship, it's a celebration, and the way he did it, right? After the
Olympics,
Olympics,
yeah.
They win. He doesn't play much, but it's DNPs and this and that, and that whole conversation defining it, as much as that annoyed Kerr. And it's always about what he's not, right? And he's a ton of different things that are awesome. And I don't understand it from a, personality perspective, because that's what you're going to go on with the game. Like, is it, I think you've said it before, John, is it that the game doesn't flash in any single way? And Noah, I think you said yesterday that there's no one exceptional skill that stands out. It's the variety of skills across the board that define his game, rather than one that's great or the best in any category. So he's just pretty steady, and that's what it is. He's not the best. He's up there. There's no single exceptional skill, but he doesn't have the weaknesses. And personality-wise, there's no real highs or lows. He's just pretty steady here. So it's those three things to me, that he doesn't really go high or low too much. Like, it's just pretty consistent, and he's been there forever now at this point. Playoffs, 2018 comes into the league at this point. You're watching them day in and day out. They're always on TV. Like, that's why it's underappreciated, John. I don't think there's a disrespect necessarily, but you're just used to him. He's always there.
Okay. So what I'll say is I actually think Tatum's having the best year of his career. I think he's gotten better in a number of areas, specifically the playmaking. And I know I've said this to you guys before. I think a casual NBA fan might be a little bored with him because he does kind of lack that. And we've seen a little bit more of it. He's a little bit more emotional this year than he has been in past years. He gets a little bit more fired up for things. He kind of, he's certainly not like pumping up the
Hawk scuffle.
Yeah, he's got little things here, little things there. The post-game press conferences, we don't need to rehash any of them. We know how painful they can be. Off the court, he can be a little tame. He's a great guy. I don't know him personally, but he seems to be like a great example. He seems to be like a really great role model. Obviously, he
lets his kids stay up late.
Yeah, great father. Right.
Right.
I'm
kids
not
do
a
whatever
parent.
they want. That's cool.
I'm not a parent, so I'm not going to get
love
into
that.
when they should go to bed or not. But he's a great person to be the face of your franchise because of all the things I've listed. But if you're looking for a face of the NBA, he kind of lacks that superstar power, that whatever that it factor is. There's something that he just doesn't have. And I think that just is who he is. And I think he's probably accepted that. And I think that's what kind of goes into some of the comments he makes. He's like, listen, I know that people aren't going to maybe appreciate me the way that maybe they should. And I'm okay with that. It's gotten me this far in life. I know what I do. My teammates know what I can do. But I said this before, and John, I'll let you talk, but I said this before. I've never seen a player win an NBA finals, win a gold medal, and then his stock somehow takes a hit, like on a national level. And that
Doesn't make
feels like,
because he didn't
what
play
happened.
well in those.
Exactly,
in those
but still, it like rarely ever
Yeah.
happens
So,
that way. But that's how high
this
the
is-
standard is for him.
This is where I put it. I always throw this one out here because I do think it's parts corny, parts personality, like press conference, whatever. That's superficial stuff. It has nothing to do with
That's
whatever.
internet stuff, though.
It's fine. It's just like that's why
Internet is
there's
real.
hate. If you want to not like somebody, you'll find reasons. As far as the game goes, as you said, is not a dead-eye shooter, not insanely athletic, high-flying, acrobatic. So that stuff doesn't capture the imagination. He's not like a Luka level passer, with the dropping all of these dimes all over the place. He does everything really well, but he's like a B plus or A minus instead of like. It's like a decathlete instead of like the fastest man in the world. You know what I mean? It's like that captures the imagination a little bit less.
It's like
This
you're
is
a
the one
4
in
on
the
everything
play-
in Mario Kart, kind of.
Yeah, on the play side, this is the one thing that I think jumps the most. It looks like sometimes he's trying as hard as he possibly can and can't score. It's not just cold. It's can't get by this dude, can't get to his spot, can't get his shot. People see games like that with him. And it doesn't happen all the time. He also has plenty of games where he does whatever the hell he wants. But people see enough examples of this, and throughout the finals, he can't get the shot he wants, and he can't hit it consistently enough. So if he was like a scorching, like KD level one-on-one scorer, where it doesn't matter what the defense, he's just going to rise up and hit it, and that's that. And you just have to, take your punishment, go home. That would be fine. But he doesn't have that in his game. So people see too many of those 6 for 18 games. And even though the rest of the stat sheet looks good and he's a plus 24 and played good defense, people walk away and like, I wasn't that impressed. And I think that's what it comes down to.
Isn't that across the league, though? I mean, how many guys?
Of course, you look at every superstar, they're going to have those down.
Right.
I think that's the thing that people see nationally. They'll see a game or two where they'll be like, this is your king. And they're not impressed by it. Because of some things like that, they're not looking at the big picture. They're not looking at 82 games. They're looking at snapshots. And in those snapshots, you see games like that where you're like, Tatum just got bottled up. Like this guy, he can't get. And that's what they see. That's what I think. That's what I think. Those small examples. Yeah.
Yeah, but unless there's 28 teams that they could be fans of, that Tatum's still a better player than whoever that is their favorite player on their team.
Yeah.
So. There's a lot of haters out there, and I said this before. If you're a Celtic, you already have a lot of haters because the Celtics are an organization that has been at the top for many, many, many years, and they're going back to the days where John was watching it. The 40s, like the 50s, the 60s,
40s. George Mikan.
Yeah, right. So there's a lot of
Pettit. Oh my god,
ass down.
those guys could hoot.
Koozie.
Hatred,
Koozie.
all those guys. God knows. So there's a lot of just hatred just because you wear the jersey. So there's going to be some of that with Tatum. I think he is underappreciated on a national level.
Yeah.
I think Celtics fans appreciate him, and I think you can make the case that maybe Celtics fans sometimes overappreciate him. But I think on a national level, he gets a little bit more criticism or hatred, whatever word you want to use, than maybe he should. And I do think he has one of the best all-around games.
The efficiency thing's wrong. He's having the 3rd most efficient season of his career, and it's like tied for 2nd.
What do you mean it's most efficient?
Yeah, but that's based on him, though.
His true shooting's down over the last couple of years. His EFG is down. His overall field goal percentage, his 3-point percentage, he's getting to the line a little bit less. Like he's dropped a little. I mean, we're talking small margins.
This is tied for 2nd most effective field goal percentage season for him.
No, it's
and
not.
Last year was his most efficient.
No, it's not. His EFG and his true shooting percentage are down this year over last year.
Last year, but it's still tied for his 2nd best ever.
I don't think so. Anyway, I was looking at the numbers today. I think it's down a little bit, but again, he's getting to the line more than he was earlier in his career. So those numbers on the true shooting at least are going to be up, but he's not. He hasn't been as efficient this year scoring. So again, you see those games where you come away from the box score and 7 for 21. It's like, well, whatever. But Noah hasn't talked.
No, I was just gonna say,
Bass.
we kind of did have this conversation last night.
We did.
But
No, we
I just think
didn't.
there's two things at
Yes,
play.
we did. I
One,
don't know how you don't remember it, Jimmy.
I was the host.
don't-
We didn't talk about this.
what are you talking about?
We mentioned it, but we didn't have a full-on.
We
We
did at
had a
least
very
30
long
minutes on it.
conversation.
You did 30 minutes on it?
We
I think
had
so.
the same exact conversation.
We literally had this
last night.
conversation. I'm happy to have it
What?
again. We have new voices here.
I was literally hosting. I don't remember any of this.
Did you fax my dog the entire conversation, Jimmy?
I guess
Faxed
so.
my
I'm
dog
gonna
the
have to
entire
watch
thing.
it back and find out what I said.
Okay, my thing is with the face of the league thing, and I've done a couple of radio hits this week, and this has been the biggest theme on all of the radio hits is like, is Tatum the face of the league? Like everybody's talking about it right now. And part of it is this Washington Post interview. Part of it is just this is the time of year where there's not that much happening in the NBA. I think the face of the league thing needs to be a closed case. If you're consistently playing in June and you're one of the best players, you're who defines that generation. Like that's all it is to me. The reason that it was LeBron and Steph for so many years, in addition to them being all-time greats, is because every June you knew that they were going to face off, and that's that really. And there are other great players like James Harden had some great individual years, but he doesn't define that era. He wasn't that guy. There's a reason why when Tatum the other day said the LeBrons, the Stephs, the KDs, it wasn't James Harden, right? It wasn't other guys that had great individual
Westbrook.
seasons. And so, yeah, it wasn't Westbrook, even though Westbrook obviously is a guy that Tatum has a ton of respect for. Like those guys are the ones that define that era because they won the championships. And so in 10 years, nobody's going to remember if he was corny or if he had an off year or down year or if he had three scoring options on his team or two or whatever else. They're just going to remember if he was a winner or not. And I think this, like some of the stuff around him does kind of remind me of early career LeBron. Like LeBron in his first 6 or 7 seasons, really just people were like, he was the most hated person, right? Everybody hated LeBron. I remember in 2011.
Well,
like,
that's always the case.
but he's not anymore.
I think
He's
he
really
still is.
not.
Yeah,
The
but,
public perception of LeBron has completely shifted in the last decade plus.
Some, but no, like I said, it's not really. That's the
Yeah.
whole point. Is
It's
if
changed.
people have to keep making
What do you
resume
mean?
cases,
People
like
still hate LeBron. What are you talking about?
But it's
No, but not
changed.
nearly as much. The universal thing now is to respect LeBron. In 2011, the entire country was a Dallas Mavericks fan for 2 weeks. Like the world it's a different. Like I think a lot
LeBron
of
gets
people.
LeBron gets a ton of hate,
He gets a ton of hate, but he's also one of the most revered athletes of all
And
time. Like,
but you guys, again, you're in your NBA Twitter world. Sure, that makes a lot of sense. And by the way, me and John have been on this show hundreds of times saying LeBron's the GOAT. So it's not coming from me. But
Yeah.
if you listen across the landscape and again, more casuals, LeBron is still public enemy.
No one
number
challenges
and
his
he's on the Lakers now, by
legacy,
the way.
though.
So you can bet that if the Lakers are in the NBA Finals, they're still rooting against him.
Yeah.
yeah, but my
Jason-
point being,
Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, like, is he underappreciated right now? Probably. Should it be a thing that if I were him, if I was his PR people, I would tell him to just move away from this conversation because it's not making him more likable to be wallowing in people's public opinion of him. He has all the deals. He has the 3rd most popular jersey. Everybody in TD Garden is wearing his jersey. They're not wearing Brown jerseys. They're not wearing Pritchard jerseys or Derek White jerseys. Like he's the guy he's the defending champion. He's probably going to win finals MVP if they win the championship this coming year, unless he blows it. I think like that's just how nature would take its course. So I don't know. I just feel like with him, like it's just kind of comes with the territory. And it's why a guy like
that's-
SGA doesn't get hate is because he just burst onto the scene like literally this year.
That's a
So
great point, Noah, because we said it after the Olympics, John. Just go out there, put the ring on the middle finger and be like, I don't care I'm not playing. I just won the championship. I'm the best guy in the league. F off. And instead it's, oh, well, it's cover a 2K.
Yeah.
I didn't expect this to happen. And
That's the point.
Just had the walling over it. Like, just flex the resume, look at the wins, look at the productivity. If you want to call me the face of the league, great. But all that said, and he did that to some degree here.
Yeah, like I said, is the part of this interview, like I mentioned at the top, is him saying, I don't really want to be in this debate. If people want to debate it, that's fine. So he's not doing that, but he can't help saying like, by the way, have you seen all of my stats and numbers? And that I've said that from the get-go. No athlete should do this. It really doesn't serve Tatum well because he does have that kind of like AAU baby sort of vibe to him. And I think that's what some people don't like about it, that like AAU brat sort of thing. And that hurts the perception, but he's not the only guy. I think a lot of players have that. But the victim mentality doesn't do him any favor. So you're right. From a PR standpoint, stop it. But to address what Noah had said is, you're right, Noah. That's the point. Like, you can put forth the resume and like it should speak for itself, but it doesn't matter if the people are going to keep saying and thinking what they think. Like I use not quite the same example, but I use KD's example of, no matter what he said or did, or no matter how rationally you looked at it, the entire world, the internet or whatever, believes he took the easy way out, joining Golden State to win a championship. And he's been trying to get people to think differently on that forever. And any sensible argument you can make, which is like, are you kidding? He's a free agent. He can do what he wants. He won the friggin' finals MVP. He was the best player on that super team. Like, they don't win without him. All of those things are true. KD cannot change what people think about that as much as he's tried, and he's spent years trying to make people think differently. So if people think this about Tatum, he can't undo it. Like they're the stacking. If Tatum never wins another title and puts up numbers like this the rest of his life, this is what people will continue to think of him. Good, not great. You can't erase that. Like, no matter how hard you try, people will continue to putting up the numbers and will keep talking about whether he's underappreciated, but it's not going away. It's a perception thing that exists for one reason or another. And I'm trying to figure out what the main reason why is.
You know who else
for him? Yeah.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
You know who else was underappreciated their entire Celtics career, John? You're going to hate this. Paul Pierce.
Pierce? Yeah.
Paul Pierce was underappreciated his entire Celtics career, his entire NBA career. And yeah, when he won a championship, guess what they said? Oh, you needed KG.
He's rocketed
Ray
past
Allen.
Pierce, though.
He's what? Yeah,
he's rocketed past him. Yeah.
Well, yeah, in terms of talent or whatever, but I think in
overall
terms of
accomplishments, exactly. Yeah.
But Paul Pierce, Bobby, check yourself, because Paul Pierce is a top 50 player in the NBA. That's official. That's already happened.
Check yourself.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Where are my Paul Pierce fans at? And that's exactly my point. You can go. It's not just a Jason Tatum thing. You can go around the NBA, and there's probably a bunch of guys who feel like throughout the course of their career they were underappreciated. Congratulations, Jason Tatum. You're the latest one. But Paul Pierce, he's like and he was playing in an era when the Vince Carter, Dwayne Wade. You can make the case that Pierce was better than those players, and he wasn't getting half the love that those guys were getting.
I got to put this up. This isn't the media. It's not a media creation. It's the people who think
maybe he was
this.
top 75. Maybe I should check my.
Yeah, the
I don't know who
debate.
I don't know who
debates it because we're bored, and it's good talk show fodder, and that's why it comes up from time to time. This is not a media creation. The media is not hating on Tatum. In fact, the media, generally speaking, gives Tatum a crap ton of love. Tatum is. People gush over him, and and most of the NBA analysts and most of the national media players do. This is absolutely not media creation.
Do it last night.
Is something media snaps up. This is.
I don't know where this.
Is what the people think. Yeah,
I don't know where this stems from, and no, maybe you have another idea on it. It seems to be a Twitter thing, I guess.
The media puts them in the All NBA first team every year. The media votes them top 5 MVP every year. This is not a media creation.
So who are we talking about?
Whatever.
Trolls?
I don't know who we're talking about. It's Twitter. It's the podcast.
Instagram comments.
The fans.
Instagram. No, it's not the fans, because the fans love him. He's third in jersey sales.
Yeah, so it's just trolls. We're basically talking about Twitter trolls, because he does have the jersey sales too.
We're talking about trolls.
That's the thing.
It's becoming an annoying
That's why, I feel like he is.
He's responding to a
very
small
popular.
subset. Yeah, he's
which
very
is fair.
popular.
And also, I always want to contextualize, like you said, John. Like, he was probably asked 10 questions about this, so he gave them something. That's always what's hard, where it's like there's a quote and we don't know exactly what led to that moment. I just think he's actually very well liked, and I know the underappreciated thing. He said he feels underappreciated. That's fair. I mean, a lot of people feel that way on their daily life. I think probably most players in the NBA feel underappreciated to a certain extent.
Sure.
But I think that he is actually pretty appreciated, and that when it's all said and done, these kinds of things are not going to really be relevant when in the stakes of his career. He's going to have such a ridiculous resume by the end, and he's going to have been around, and because he's so durable too, he's always in the big moments. Think about how many moments he's already been a part of, and he's just, he has another decade left. So that's kind of my point there.
We just can't have nice things anymore, in this world. So it doesn't matter how good you are, whether it's LeBron, whether it's Tatum. Name a player. Yeah, sure. I guess SGA hasn't gotten his yet. He's in a small market in OKC. Not a lot of people have discovered him enough to hate him, but I'm sure that'll happen at some point. He'll do something. Jokic, whatever. People want to hate. It's much easier to hate than love. So that's just what happens.
If SGA has 4 deep playoff runs where he doesn't get over the hump, it's suddenly it's going to be SGA's 29 and he's never going to be.
There's always someone with a target.
Let me move the conversation quickly into this direction, and then we can wrap here. So I do think it's a tired conversation. I think Tatum gets plenty of respect based on his accolades. He's consistently making All-Star, All-NBA, first team, All-Star, top 5, even though he finished 6th last year in MVP. It's not a media created issue. People respect him. The fans like him. They buy his jersey. It's probably a small subset of online trolls that love hating on stuff, and he is a target for some of the reasons we've mentioned. That's fine. However, what does it take? And can Tatum do anything other than continuing to show his current resume? Can he do anything to elevate him to the point that the conversation cannot be had anymore? Is there any tweaks to his game remaining to get him there? Because here's what I believe, and this is where the Boston fans separate from everyone else. I believe Boston fans are constantly 2 years ahead of where Jason Tatum actually is. Like they're saying, oh my God, look at his playmaking 2 years ago, and it wasn't all the way there. And it's starting to get there now, and now it's overreacting like he's dropping 10 dimes a game. It's not. It's good now. Like it's better. Now you can see the passing, but it wasn't there before, but people wanted to see it. So I always think that Boston fans might have inflate where he is in his overall continued development or his overall game by just a little bit. But there is still room for him to potentially shore up some of the very few things he has not going in his favor and get to the point where it's hard to not talk about him as an MVP favorite or a top 2 candidate every year, but he's not. And honestly, not only is he's not particularly close to Jokic and SGA this year. He's probably closer overall to the guys who are going to finish. I think he finishes 3rd, but he might be closer to the 7th place in voting than he's going to be to the 1st or 2nd. So like, what's it going to take to jump into that upper echelon where nobody's debating, is he truly one of the greats? Is he the face of the NBA? Is he a star? What's left? What's left for him?
I think if he has a playoff run kind of similar to 2022 until the finals, where he's kind of consistently outperforming opposing team stars and he's shooting efficiently and he leads them to a championship, this chapter of these debates are going to be over. I think the way that things went down last year, where he really struggled from the field and then had the Olympic stuff and all summer was just chatter about that, and he kind of didn't get the benefit from a narrative standpoint that you would normally get from winning the championship, even though he had a really good playoff run in a lot of ways. But if he has, I think if he has just a good playoff run and they win the championship, I think that people will move forward from 22. Now it's like he's won 2 championships. He's done this multiple times. You're going to have to, I think it's going to be more about that than any particular skill set or personality change.
Yeah, that one's obvious. And I think, John, you're going to point more in like the stylistic direction, because I do think that's part of the conversation there.
Less
too.
style. It's not the style.
Approach.
I put it in the chat, Bobby, earlier. It was this. It's like, I think it's a shot diet, and somebody used that term in the chat, so I'm kind of borrowing it, but it's a good way to put it.
He's in a difficult spot with that.
It's the shot diet where he's still that guy who wants to force it when it's not falling to see if he can find it, and acting like scoring is the way he's going to affect the game most. While where I think is you eliminate 2-3 bad shots a game and he's looking to pass more. And that's that. I said it in one of my predictions. Tatum will score less, but his overall game will be much, much better. I still want to see that season where he goes 25, 10, and 8. And I think that's going to be an overall better player. And that's going to look better too, because I think, you're not going to have as many wild contested misses or those games where the field goal percentage looks low because he took too many tough contested shots. I think that's the next evolution is like, if they're going to double you every day, every time, just have a Jokic line every once in a while where you take 11 shots, 10 shots in a game. And he had one recently. I think he took 13, but you drop 14, 15 assists. If they're going to come at you make him pay. Like, just be that guy. Take the game as it comes. I think that's always been his next evolution, because I don't think he's ever going to be like the 35 point per game, run away with it, scoring type guy. I think he's always going to be a complete player. I'm saying complete the completion, like he's almost there. I think he's just got to finish it, get there all the way with it. Yeah.
No, I like the cutout
'Cause it's
1-2 bad
close.
shots a game. I do think we
Yeah.
underrate how much he's just following the team's lead on his shot selection. I don't think it's 100% him. Maybe those like step back, like heave kind of ones, but the amount of threes you see, I think, is very oriented around what the team wants to do. And, he plays a way that's team friendly. Like, he's not going for 30, 35 there. He's not
Or if he wins
trying
4
to,
titles. Yeah.
he's not trying to stuff the stat sheet. He's not trying to steal the ball away from Jalen all game. And that's another factor here too, is that he's, sharing the mantle atop the team with another, highly recognized, highly regarded star. And so that's another dynamic here that he, I think, handles well. So for me, like, stylistically, I do want to see him play more like a power forward sometimes. I think it's more natural for him. I think it's prettier. Like, he's got the great post game. He's got the, jacked frame now that can help him finish inside, all that kind of stuff. He's a great rebounder. So I think those aspects of his game are a little more natural, but he's playing outside, taking 10 threes a game. He's the point forward, and he's come miles and miles with that. He just has to do so much. And so he can't do everything all the time. But I do think what he's best at, Jimmy, is defending centers, rebounding, finishing inside through traffic, barreling his way to the rim and passing out of there too. I love that stuff, but they play a perimeter game and they want him to absorb the pressure on the perimeter, and he's always compromising, and I don't love the 10 threes a game, but that's the style this team plays, and it's been successful.
Yeah, and this is a cop up, but I think both Bobby and Noah are right here. So I agree with Noah that to shut up the haters, quote unquote, and that's really what this is about, because I kind of want to go back and say that I don't think he's underappreciated on a national scale. I think there are the loud minority of people that are just haters. And I think, to Noah's point, in order to shut them up and to prevent them from having anything to kind of hate on Tatum about, yeah, he would kind of need to go Cedric Maxwell and put the team on his back and carry them to another title. Now, I don't know if that's possible with the makeup of his team. They're too talented around him, and maybe that hurts his his MVP candidacy a little bit because of the talent that's around him, because, as Bobby mentioned, he kind of shares the top mantle there, because they brought in Porzingis and Holiday, and those guys kind of catapulted them to a win. So there's a lot of
he's balancing everybody's shot totals and all that.
But I think we can all agree that when he's out in the court, that's when the Celtics play their best basketball. He is the connecting piece to the starters and to that second unit. I do think that he's expanded his game tremendously, to take a word from Bobby. I think his playmaking has gotten much better. To your point, John, yeah, there are some frustrating things about his game still, but find me a player, maybe Jokic aside, that doesn't frustrate you about something. And I think it's a little
even
bit
Jokic, not an all-world defender.
Sure. It's unfair to expect him to not ever do something wrong, or to not ever take the superstar approach and take a heat check or two when you maybe would want to see him pass it instead. I think he has made that pass way more often this year. I think he's goaded teams I think he's literally put teams and put opposing players where he wants them in order to make a pass out of a double team. So I think he's getting smarter. So I will agree with Noah in that, yeah, he kind of has to, in order to shut the haters up, and it might not ever happen. I mean, dude, people hate, aside from like Jordan and I don't know, maybe like Tim Duncan, who didn't really have a hater. There's haters for everybody.
He's going to have to go the Duncan route.
There's always going to be haters. So like that might not ever go away, but to really just shut people up, yeah, he's going to kind of take over a team for a playoff runner for an NBA Finals. But to get better, to take his game to the next level, sure, he needs to probably raise that shooting percentage up a little bit by playing smarter basketball, limiting the turnovers. And now all of a sudden you're talking about, again, you're talking about an all-time player if he can do all of those things. I mean, there's a handful of guys that have been able to do it. So if that's the barometer now, then yeah, I mean, you keep raising, or moving the goalposts, whatever analogy you want to use, then sure, he's going to have room to grow there.
I love the Duncan comparison, Sherrod. 5 titles, didn't say a word, didn't really change, wasn't face of the league, did everything right. Like that's who he could become if he
Yeah.
plays his cards right.
Yeah, and that's a big if, because the one thing about Tim Duncan, and having covered him all the way back when he was in the ACC, and I was covering ACC, and he was at Wake Forest, Tim Duncan has literally never changed.
Yeah.
He was always the best guy on the floor, who you would think he was the ninth man, the way he carried himself. Yeah, the potential is there, but the one thing, Bobby, you said that it always comes back to is winning championships and having the right pieces around you to do that. And to me, that's the one thing that I think is so critical to that coming to fruition is can they keep the pieces around him that are necessary to keep winning championships? Because you're looking at Cleveland, you're looking at, the Knicks aren't deep, but they're Oklahoma City, the Lakers. I mean, things are going to get interesting in the next few years, and will they be able to keep up? Remains to be seen.
I'm getting hate for my LeBron take, but that's not a hot take. There's a lot of people that think LeBron's the GOAT. It's either MJ or LeBron. And I will say this, there's a lot of players in the NBA today and a lot of players that are coming into the NBA in the next 10, 15, 20 years. It's going to be all those people saying that LeBron's the GOAT, and the whole narrative is going to change again. And that's just the way it goes. Before Jordan, it was somebody else. And after Jordan, it'll be LeBron. And I don't know if there'll be somebody after LeBron, but it's hard to look at LeBron's stats from start to finish. Talk about a guy that had expectations. Mm-hmm. I can't think of another player in any sport that's actually exceeded the expectations, and the expectations that he had when he came into the league were astronomical. And he's, say what you want about him. Yeah, he's lost some big games, but you could also make the case that they had no business even being in some of those NBA finals. He talk about putting a team on his back. I mean, he put some really bad Cavs teams on his back.
He's playing 1-on-5 for the first part of his career. I mean, what are we talking about?
He's a part of the team that maybe had the greatest comeback in NBA Finals history, him and Kyrie, that's down 3-1 to arguably the greatest team assembled, that Washington Warriors team. And they came back and they beat them. So, and LeBron's still doing it. By the way, LeBron is still a top player in this league at age 40. He's still playing bully ball. He's still playing bully ball out there. MJ wasn't doing this stuff. So again, I don't want to get in the MJ LeBron discussion tonight, but for everyone saying, "Oh, shame on,"
you kind of did.
Yeah, you kind of did.
You kind of just went there.
I know, but I don't want to go further. But because I'm reading the comments, and people
all we want to know is, will you remember that we had this conversation on Friday?
No.
Yeah, that's what I want to know too.
It's no. The past, you guys understand the past is not even real, right? Like all that matters.
We're doing it again.
Okay,
on Friday, I'm doing the hate pie. That'll be it. That'll be the new wrinkle. So that wraps it up for this stuff. As we said, we do have fun games coming up. Quick reminder again, our sponsor, Prize Picks. Check that out. Sign up, play. Promo code CLNS, new users. Play 5, get 50 instantly. It's all you've got to do. Check us out on Friday. The crew will be down at the Garden as the fourth and final meeting between the Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers of this season. Celtics have won 2 of 3, and then you've got Denver. Hopefully we will see Nikola Jokic play in this one, because he did not play when the two teams faced off in Denver, even though we flew Bobby out there at great expense for that game, and it did not.
He had a great time still, I think.
Did not materialize.
Yeah, we saw Jokic's brother on the
wasn't
elevator.
There some,
that was crazy.
Wasn't there a woman in the chat trying to get you out to Colorado last year?
Yes.
Like who super
she was
chatted
put them
and
up
tried
in
to
a house.
She's going to put them up.
Yeah, me and Joe.
I forget who that was. You saw Jokic's brother?
Sounds like an interesting
night. Jokic's brother on the elevator. That was the OKC trip too, which wasn't pretty for them. And that game wasn't great either. But they won. So I don't know. I'm high on them right now. I think they're gonna win Friday pretty decisively. I think it's a good matchup for them. It'll be tough, but they'll get up for that one this game.
7-game homestand begins on Friday, I believe.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Rob,
I have to. That kills me. I have to wait an hour for you guys to get on the show.
Yeah, that sucks.
We've been on like every road game anyway, so
I know it's just killing me.
Just speed it up. Okay.
That's why I was going to skip this game, but I didn't want you, Jimmy, and Bobby to have the same Tatum conversation, just the three of you. So that's
I wouldn't have even known.
Forget Jokic. 1 week from today, John, are we going to see Rob?
I don't know.
Dude,
I'm
Rob
almost
doesn't-
sad.
Rob doesn't
I want to.
know.
I want to remember Rob as he was. So I don't know. I do.
Are we going to sing that on Wednesday?
I am. Oh God.
We'll do a tribute. Rob Stonk
I'm-
is in the building, hopefully.
Yeah, it's like it's why I don't watch. It's why I don't watch sequels of like movies that come out way too late, like Zoolander 2, or I'm like I want to remember. I don't want to sully the memory of what
Dumb
once
and Dumber
was.
2 or whatever. Yeah, you don't want to watch that stuff.
Never.
Rob 2 is not. Nobody wants to watch Rob 2.
Well, I don't know. He came out okay. Then he had a weird like concussion, and then he was out for like I don't know. And now he's a DNP like almost every other game. Every game, it's brutal. It's brutal. So who knows if he plays? I don't know. I miss him. I miss the guy. Give him a ring.
Hey.
Give him an honorary ring.
If
He gets the honorary ring.
If that keeps up, he
gets
might be available. John, he might be available at some point.
Yeah,
We'll
him and
see.
Smart,
We'll see.
Brogdon, they'll all come back.
We'll see. Check out Noah's stuff on Celtics blog. Check out Bobby Manning on CLNSmedia.com. And of course, you should subscribe to Sherrod's Substack if you want the latest and greatest on the Celtics and all news in and around the NBA. And Jimmy Toscano, go watch him play some music. Why not?
That's right. You can do that.
Why not?
You can definitely do
Let's
that.
do that.
I'm
Check
around.
it. He's not gonna.
Where can we
write
find you,
anything.
Jimmy? For those of us that have never heard you perform, where can we find you?
When's the
Jimmy
next
Tunes
gig?
on Instagram. Jimmy Tunes is where I post all my gigs. I'm not
No,
gonna
but
say what my
where can
next.
we find you? Is like we want to watch you perform. Where
She
can
wants
that
to
be?
see you live,
I
Jimmy.
never missed a
live.
show.
I want one row seats.
Hunter. All right, so I'm not gonna say my next gig because it coincides with a big Celtics game coming up this week. That I don't want people to go to my gig and not watch the game. But the following Friday, March 7th, at Hunters in Boston, South Boston.
I love the Hunters.
Bobby's a big Hunters guy. I don't know if there's a game that night. I won't be on the show if there is, but I will be there. That's a fun spot. You got to be ready to bring the energy.
I
ready to
think I
party.
lead the show in Jimmy show appearances.
Oh, you do. John's been to 0.
You kidding?
John's
I'm
been to
always
0.
there.
I think I have
Ah,
Ahmed
weird.
beat too.
And by the way, the food at Hunters is unbelievable. So even
That's
if you
what
hate
I'm there
the music,
for.
Yeah,
Jimmy's
even if you hate the
second, the
music.
food's first.
you get a great
Ouch.
meal.
Okay.
But
You get a great meal.
there for both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Good. So we will check it out.
No, you
Go
won't.
check out Jimmy.
Yeah,
I'm there all the time. I love it. I can't get enough. But we're back on
Noah's
Friday.
gonna be there, guys. Noah's gonna be
Huge-
there if you're watching.
Huge
so.
game. Don't tell people Noah's gonna be there. These freaking weirdos are
Why? I
gonna
need
show
people
up.
to show up.
Be a line down the street.
I'm sending a security detail.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll see you on Friday. Celtics Cavs should be fun. Thank you guys for joining. Tell all your friends. Big game coming up, and obviously we're heading into the stretch run of the season and into the playoffs, where we still expect good things despite disappointing loss to the Pistons tonight, 117-97. We will see you all on Friday. Take care. No one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me. I'll tell you that.
Okay, you know what, John? We're gonna do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have
Say
to
it.
feel
You
that
said
way.
it.
Let's slide Al over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke hour early. We're not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke